National Hot Rod Association. The Sportsnationals. Brought to you by Fram, makers of oil, air, and fuel filters, windshield wipers, and Autolite spark plugs and tune-up kits. And by English Leather, toiletries for men. Ask for English Leather and find toiletry counters everywhere. And by Kodak, whose color burst instant cameras give you bright, brilliant, bursting color by Kodak. Of racing in Pro Comp Eliminator at the Sportsnationals. That was Chase Knight of Miami, Florida, hitting the wall at Beach Bend Park. Drag racing described as one of the quickest of all motorsports. It can go wrong just as quick. Let's look again as Chase Knight matches up against the defending champion Jim Archer. You see him lose control right off the starting line, hits the wall, a glancing blow. The car not severely damaged, but if you'll take a close look, you'll notice the misalignment of the front wheels, the damage to the rear end, and also to the pocketbook of Chase Knight and partner Al Leiter. Here is the Grace Cup champion, Dale Armstrong, in the far side. He's matched against the funny car of Jerry Gwynn. Armstrong from California, Gwynn from Miami, Florida. This is first round racing. And again, one little error put the defending Grace Cup champion out of competition, giving the win to Jerry Gwynn. In slow motion, you see it happen right there as Dale Armstrong losing momentary control, the win going to Jerry Gwynn at over 205 miles an hour. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave McClelland, and this is the 5th Annual Sports Nationals. We're in Beach Bend Park in Bowling Green, Kentucky, for the top of the line in sportsman category racing. Only the best from all over the United States and Canada make it to Beach Bend Park each year, for some 500 cars have been narrowed down to these final eliminator fields that we'll be seeing today. We'll be back with the start of racing in just a moment. Beach Bend Park in the Sports Nationals is Steve Evans. Steve will be bringing us all the background, the highlights of what goes on in this frantic activity called drag racing. Right now, before the start of racing, Steve's in the staging lanes.
Thank you very much, Dave. This race sure has a fun feeling to it. Guys and gals drag racing because they love it. Strictly sportsman racers. The first category of competition we're going to be seeing is Pro Comp. They are the quickest and fastest cars here at the Sports Nationals. There's dragsters, there's funny cars, and it's the only category that races heads up here today. Before we get to the Pro Comp action, let's meet some of the drivers.
Hi, I'm Ken Veeney from Wadsworth, Ohio.
Hi, I'm Jim Archer from Los Alamos, New Mexico.
Hi, my name is Kenny Cook. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky.
Dale Armstrong, Torrance, California. I drive a AA dragster.
And we saw Dale Armstrong go down to defeat in first round racing in Pro Comp. This now marks the start of round number 2 in Pro Comp racing. Here's Ben Griffin driving the Carroll Brothers car from Dallas, Texas. Alongside of him, the funny car of Ken Veeney. Quite a story behind this funny car, a brand new car. First time it's ever been down the racetrack is here at the Sports Nationals. Pro Comp racing, a broad cross-section of cars, dragsters versus funny cars. The dragsters can be either supercharged or injected. Ben Griffin's car is injected, running on nitromethane. Ken Veeney's funny car is supercharged on alcohol. Leaving the line together, but Veeney pulling a quick lead and holds on to the finish. 6.74 seconds and a new top speed record at 208 miles an hour for Ken Veeney and his brand new funny car. Here in slow motion, we see Veeney beginning to build up his lead in the last half of this race. And with a 2-car length lead, gets to the finish line first. Two similar cars, Bill Wallace in the near lane. Wallace out of Middletown, Ohio. Willard Buff from Baytown, Texas. driving this Gold Digger entry, was the Pro Comp champion at the recent Cajun Nationals. You saw the action right here on Diamond P Sports. These two cars very similar, alcohol-burning dragsters, supercharged engines, but running on alcohol. This is the top of the line in sportsman racing. We call it Pro Comp. And two of the men ready to go. And a red light start for Willard Fram. Bill Wallace automatically the winner. Buff getting there first, but it's to no avail as back at the starting line, he left a big red light. Bill Wallace runs 6.82 seconds at over 202 miles an hour. Here in dramatic slow motion, you see just how it happened. Willard Buff in the far lane leaves just a hair too soon. As you see there, the red light comes on, and then the green for Bill Wallace. A pair of funny cars from London, Ontario, Canada, Frank Hawley. The Hawley family's entry to be in the far lane. Gary Gwynn in the near lane knocked out the defending Grace Cup champion, Dale Armstrong, in round number 1 action. Gwynn from Miami having one of the best days of his long career. Both cars staging very carefully as they roll into the staging beams. They're actually light beams stretching across the starting line. Jerry Gwynn in the near lane, Frank Hawley in the far lane. Hawley now into his proper staging position. Here comes Jerry Gwynn. When they're set, the switch is thrown, and it's race time. Frank Hawley with lots of problems. Frank Hawley out of control and crosses right behind Jerry Gwynn. Gwynn wins the race, both to the finish line as Frank Hawley losing control, crossing the center line, which automatically disqualified him. Here in slow motion, we see it once again. Hawley's car making a violent move just as it leaves the starting line. Moves right behind Jerry Gwynn in the same lane.
All right, here we go.
Let's go down now to Steve at the finish line area.
Jerry Gwynn of Miami, rather frightening race with Hawley, at least from our vantage point. I'm sure it was even scarier inside the car.
Yeah, he came over in my lane, but everything was under control.
Did you think there was a possibility of him hitting you?
Not really, no. I thought that we could get by each other all right.
How close was it?
Plenty close. I don't know how close it was.
Well, you're doing awfully well. In fact, the funny cars in general are doing well today when everybody says the dragster's a lot more consistent.
Yeah, that's true. There's going to be a funny car in the final, and I hope it's us.
Okay, so does your family here. Good luck.
All right, thank you very much.
The final race of round number 2 in Pro Comp Eliminator, Cook and Thorne. This is Kenny Cook from Louisville, Kentucky. This is the defending champion here at the Sports Nationals. He comes from Los Alamos, New Mexico. That's Jim Archer. Archer's car is powered by one of the injected nitro-burning engines, while Kenny Cook, his car's super light, using the small block Chevrolet engine. The way the rules are written, allowing all types of engines and all types of fuel to be used in Pro Comp racing. The difference is the size of the engine, the weight of the car, and the type of the fuel used, which allows this very, very close racing in the heads-up category of Pro Comp. Graphic detail, we see those light beams across the track. Archer into the final beam and lead the line together. Something going wrong for Jim Archer. Kenny Cook with the lowest elapsed time of the day, 6.71 seconds. His speed, 202 miles an hour. The defending champion out of it here at the Sports Nationals. Once again, let's go to the pits and Steve Evans.
Dave, with me is Mr. Tony Goodchild, the executive in charge of the Automotive Specialties Group of the WR Grace Company. In competition known as the Grace Cup, sportsman racers from coast to coast can win some pretty sizable cash awards at the end of the year. Tony, how much can they win and how does it work?
We establish a points fund at the beginning of the year, Steve, of $42,000. Racers can qualify for points towards that by their performances in 7 selected events over the year. It's a terrific program for sportsman racers. We're delighted to be doing something for them.
So from stock eliminator to Pro Comp, they can win some big bucks thanks to the Grace Cup. We'll be back with more Sports Nationals action after these words.
Starting system. All 5 amber lights come into play, and it's handicap racing based on the index system. Steve, what's the index all about?
racing Alton Love's 170-mile-an-hour A dragster against Robert Hutchison C. Econo-Aldred, a much heavier 140-mile-an-hour car. Not hardly fair, is it? Well, it wouldn't be, except for the index system. That's how the handicaps are figured in the sportsman categories we're going to see today. NHRA assigns the indexes. It's what they feel a well-prepared, well-driven car should run. Hundreds of racers, even a computer is used to finally arrive at these indexes. For Alton Love's A dragster, it's 7.75 seconds. For Robert Hutchison C. Econo-Aldred, it's 10 seconds flat. Subtract the two, you get 2.25 seconds. Dial it into the Christmas tree, and the race is on. Hutchison with the head start, the A dragster trying to chase him down. Before we see some of these tortoise and hare contests, let's meet some competition Eliminator drivers.
John Lingenfelder, Decatur, Indiana, B Econo Dragster.
Hi, I'm Ronnie Slocks from Burlington, North Carolina. Joe Williamson, Louisville, Kentucky. E. Alford, competition. Dennis Ferraro from Comac, New York. Bobby Cross, Mesquite, Texas. Wayne Clapp, driving for Dean Thompson, New Orleans, Louisiana.
16 cars started final eliminations in competition. We're down to 8. This is round number 2 racing. This is the 6-cylinder engine that powers the altered roadster of Joe Williamson. Joe's competition is Jake Clausen. He comes all the way from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Clausen giving away a little over 1 second head start to Joe Williamson. There goes Joe, and a red light for Jake Clausen. He could not wait. Watching his competition disappear down the track. Too much for Jake Clausen. He red lights away his chance for a victory. Joe Williamson moving into the next round of eliminations with a fine 8.68 second elapsed time. A very important race here. This is Wayne Clapp driving the Roadster. He's the current Grace Cup points leader. He's against John Lingenfelder's Econo Dragster. The Econo category utilizing one 4-barrel carburetor and an automatic transmission. Rather limited modifications. Clapp can do all he wants to his altered Roadster. Ford-powered engine in the Roadster, pulling a big lead at the start. But here comes Lingenfelder, and John Lingenfelder pulls it out at the finish line. 8.14 seconds the winning time, 8.47 seconds the losing time. In slow motion, we'll go back and take a look at this race as the Roadster, with 35/100ths of a second head start on the index system, tries to hold off the charge of the dragster. He still has the lead at the middle of the course. He still has the lead at the first timing light, but at the finish line, it's John Lingenfelder by just a little over a wheel length. Down to the shutdown area, that's Lingenfelder on the left, Clapp taking off his helmet. Here's Steve Evans.
Well, Wayne Clapp, I'm sorry I had to be the one to tell you that you lost. You couldn't even tell in the lights.
No, we couldn't tell. It was close in the lights.
Of course, you can't win them all. You've got 2 big national events under your belt already this season.
Yeah, but I was kind of hoping for this one. This is the one that means most of the sportsman racers winning the Sportsnationals, and we worked at it, but I guess it wasn't to be this year.
Well, there's an awful lot of money at the end of the season here in the Grace Cup. You led the points coming in. How do you think this is going to affect the Grace Cup standings with you going out here in the second round?
Just make me work harder.
From Harvard, Louisiana, Wayne Clapp.
Thank you.
A pair of Texas Econo rails. Randy Pumphrey from Lubbock. He's in the far lane. In the near lane is Bobby Cross from Mesquite. A B versus a C Econo Dragster. 3/4 of a second is the handicap. The head start going to Bobby Cross. He is in the C-class car. Both cars using small block Chevrolet engines. And it's Bobby Cross by a car length. His elapsed time 8.73 seconds at a speed of 152 miles an hour. Utilizing the Chevrolet engine with one 4-barrel carburetor and an automatic transmission, and limited modifications allowed to the engines, but they still run speeds of 150 to 160 miles an hour. So we see Bobby Cross winning over Randy Pumphrey. One of the finest full-bodied race cars anywhere, anytime. The team of Sox and Martin, the Dodge Challenger. Ronnie Sox, one of the most famous names in all of motorsports, drives this beautiful car. Exotic suspension systems, the big Hemi engine. It runs the car as an A factory experimental competition. This competition is the world champion. The Econo alternative, Dennis Ferrara. Utilizing the funny car body, Ferrara out of New York, the North Carolina team of Sox and Martin in the near lane. Ferrara gets the head start of 1 full second. Ronnie Sox now has to play catch-up. The Hemi-powered Dodge Challenger trying to make up the difference, but he can't do it. Dennis Ferrara wins it, 9.65 seconds. The Ronnie Sox losing 8.56 seconds. So you see the 1 second head start to Dennis Ferrara makes up the difference at the finish line. Ferrara continues to hold his lead in the middle of the course, but look at the challenger of Ronnie Sox trying to come on at the finish line. It's Dennis Ferrara. Modified Eliminator. We move into another category of championship drag racing competition. This is Larry Kopp from Baltimore, Maryland. He drives the Corvette, former world champion. He's against Chester, West Virginia's Dan Cook. Half a second head start going to Cook. Leaving right on the green, the Chevy Camaro building up a lead over the hard-charging Corvette of Larry Kopp. And by a half a car length, Dan Cook pulls a bit of an upset as Kopp, one of the favorites coming into this event. Dan Cook makes that half-second head start pay off at the finish line. He runs 10:49 elapsed time, speed of over 127 miles an hour. A pair of Corvettes out of Houston, Texas. In the far lane, Rick Kelly, Pete Smith in the near lane. He got 0.4 of a second head start. And Rick Kelly red lights away his chance for a win. Pete Smith shuts it off very early. He'll just coast it through. While Rick Kelly crosses the finish line ahead of Pete Smith, he is still the loser by virtue of the red light. Smith moving on to the next round of competition. Here's the hottest man in modified Eliminator at the moment, Cotton Perry from Ringgold, Georgia. He has 3 national event wins to his credit this year, 2 in modified Eliminator. He's matched against Mike McGrew. McGrew drives the Camaro, only a 288 cubic inch small block Chevrolet under the hood of this big Camaro. Cotton Perry's Chevy 2 uses a 6-cylinder Chevrolet engine. The head start, a 1/10 of a second to Cotton Perry. Perry building up a big lead in the early part of the race. I don't think McGrew can catch him. No, he cannot. It is Cotton Perry. 10.87 seconds. His speed only 115 miles an hour. Mike McGrew ran a 10.88 at 124. So you see the 1/10 of a second paying off right at the finish line. With this win, Cotton Perry taking over the Grace Cup points lead. Close competition in racing and a great fun place to be. That's the Sports Nationals, the top of the line for the sportsman racers. One of the great attractions is the locale, Beach Bend Park, a trip to a veritable fantasy world. Racing here at the Sports Nationals, Super Stock and Stock Eliminator. Let's take a look right now at one of those cars that comes the closest to the car you drive on the street, a Stock Eliminator race car.
Dave, Stock Eliminator is about the closest thing you'll find here in the Beach Bend pits to true street cars. Randall Bowles and his family from Kentucky have been here all weekend participating in Stock Eliminator with a 74 Ford Pinto. And Randall, what appeals to you about Stock Eliminator? It certainly isn't neck-snapping acceleration.
It's got to be the low amount of bucks that you have to spend. I started off with a Double B funny car, went to an altered. Then I dropped down to stock last year, and I dropped down to the smaller stock. Strictly the buck racing is the reason for it. I can take my family. I don't have to spend all my time underneath the car. This is the reason I'm into drag racing. I love the sport. I just wished I could be more competitive as far as a faster car, but by being on a budget, this car is the way to go, really. It's nearly unbreakable. What parts are breakable, they are cheaper in the long run.
How street legal is the car?
The car, with a few modifications such as exhaust only, the car will run on the street as far as this car here. It's even got the radio in it, the heaters in it, everything's in this car, which we didn't have to take it.
I notice it's for sale. Would a guy buy this for the street, or would you sell it as a race car?
I would sell it either way. It could be classified as a street freak car, or it could be classified as a car that will run on Saturday night and bring you home money.
We enjoyed talking to you. Randall Bowles of Kentucky. Dave, let's go back for the finals in Stock Eliminator.
The classic Ford versus Chevrolet battle set up here in our Stock Eliminator final. S.E. Buchanan drives this Ford Mustang. He's against Bobby Blankenship in a Chevrolet. But before we take a look at the finals, let's see how they each got there. This is the semifinal round of racing. Buchanan doing his burnouts designed to heat up the tires. Alton Minchie from Lafayette, Tennessee. Minchie drives the Pontiac. The burnout, heating the tires, getting as much traction as possible, all the way from Stock Eliminator up through Pro Comp. The burnout, a very necessary part of the sport of drag racing. 87 hundredths of a second head start will be going to Alton Minchie. S.E. Buchanan will sit there and watch his competition disappear down the racetrack. Minchie concentrating on the Christmas tree, and he does not concentrate enough. He leaves too early at red lights. So S.E. Buchanan makes it to the finals by virtue of a red light by Alton Minchie in the semifinal round. Buchanan, the winner, puts him in the finals against Blankenship. Here in slow motion, you see how early Alton Minchie leaves. The red light showing on the tree. A pair of Chevrolets, the station wagon of W.A. Lee out of Chicopee, Massachusetts, against Bobby Blankenship's Biscayne Chevy. The Biscayne of 1966, powered by the 427 cubic inch, 425 horsepower engine. One of the true high-performance cars of the mid-60s. Blankenship in the far lane, Lee in the near lane with 2.08 seconds head start. And you talk about having to really sit and wait for over 2 seconds. Bobby Blankenship watches Lee head down the track. A good start by both cars. And the bigger engine Biscayne comes from behind to take the win at 106 miles an hour, 11.05 seconds his elapsed time. Here in slow motion, you see the hard charge made by Blankenship, a little over a wheel length at the finish line. Right, now the final. This is Blankenship in the Chevrolet. We saw him just a moment ago come from behind to take the win. Can he do it? Twice in a row. 19 hundredths of a second head start going to Buchanan's Ford Mustang. Leading the line on the green, both cars head towards the finish line. And Buchanan holds on for the win. 11.63 seconds. His speed 107 miles an hour. And S.E. Buchanan, runner-up here a year ago, takes the Stock Eliminator title at the Sports Nationals.
11:41 the last time for the delay at 100. So with that, the Mustang winning.
Superstock Eliminator represents one of the strongest and toughest categories in all of drag racing. The field here at the Sports Nationals made up of the very best. One of those competitors is Judy Lilly.
I think women are better drivers because I think they're better reflexes. They're lighter, they're not so muscle bound, and I think they have more time to devote to it too. They're not as busy with the mechanical end of it.
Judy Lilly, veteran drag racer in the highly competitive Superstock category. Since 1961, Judy has put together an impressive string of titles, including championship wins at the 1972 Winter Nationals, the 1973 Spring Nationals, and the 1975 Gator Nationals. In a world reportedly dominated by men, she has more than made her mark.
What I like the most out of it, of course, is the competition. I enjoy competing. I always have enjoyed competing. I would like, of course, to get at least one more national meet under my belt. I'd like to be the #1 lady in drag racing again instead of the #2 lady, as I am right now at this point. And I guess I'd like to quit in a few years. I'm getting tired.
The car that this pretty mother of two from Littleton, Colorado drives, a Plymouth Volare, is truly a family affair. Her husband, Dennis Maurer, serving as the chief mechanic for the obsession that demands that he and his wife log over 50,000 miles a year, traveling from event to event.
The man that makes me go fast and the man behind me is my husband, Dennis Maurer, who's very devoted to the car, works on the car continually, day and night. He works the job all day, then he works all night on the car. He gets up 6 o'clock in the morning to go back to his job. I do all the driving to and from the races. He flies in at the last minute. He'll do the necessary tune-ups, and then he flies out again to go back to his job.
So with all this hard work and dedication, does Judy ever step aside and let her husband take over the driving chores?
Well, I don't really like to have him do the driving. It's my play toy, and I'm afraid he'll get in there and do a better job than I do. When I got started in drag racing, which was back in the early 60s, my first husband was driving the car at the time, and he wasn't doing too good of a job. And after a few meets, being a typical woman, I couldn't keep my mouth shut. And I suggested that he change his style of driving. In doing so, he said, if you're so smart, do it yourself. And I went ahead and jumped in and started doing it. I started bettering his time, and little by little, he got a little less involved all the time, and I got a little more involved, and eventually, he went away, and I stayed. The paramount thing in my mind at the time when I go to the line is just my mental checklist that I go through. I try not to think about anything else at the time. If you let anything else get into your concentration, you're in a lot of trouble.
And this is Judy Lilly in round #3 of Superstock Eliminator. She's racing a Chevrolet of Joe DeLorenzo out of Hamden, Connecticut. Judy going through her mental checklist, inching into the staging beams. She gets the head start. Now she has to hold off the charge of DeLorenzo. Joe beginning to inch forward, and coming from behind is DeLorenzo. What a close race. At 120 miles an hour, just passing Judy Lilly at the finish line. Watching one of the closest races of the day, Judy Lilly going out in round #3, just a matter of inches. Here now the final in Superstock Eliminator. In their lane will be Bobby Warren from Clinton, North Carolina. He's against Bob Harrison. Here we see Harrison in his semifinal race. This is how he got to the finals. He's racing Jim Bamerka from Poropolis, Pennsylvania. Harrison out of Albion, Illinois gets the head start. A little over a half a second head start went to Bob Harrison. Can Bamerka make it up? No, he cannot. Bob Harrison wins his way into the finals. 11.64 seconds, his elapsed time. Here is Bobby Warren, the remaining car in semifinal racing. Only 3 cars into the semifinals, so Bobby Warren has to make the same number of runs as his competition in the final, Bob Harrison. Bobby West Warren from Clinton, North Carolina, won the Superstock title at the inaugural Sports Nationals back in 1974. This is the first time he has been in the finals since the World Finals of '74. And making his 8th appearance in a final round of championship drag racing. Bob Harrison out of Albion, Illinois. Lining up in the far lane, he gets 69 hundredths of a second head start.
It'll be Harrison in hot pursuit.
Harrison leaves first with Warren in hot pursuit. It's Bobby Warren, 10.90 seconds elapsed time. His speed, 123 miles an hour. In slow motion, you see that big head start that was given to Harrison disappear by about a wheel length at the finish line. Bobby Warren, some $8,000 richer by winning Superstock Eliminator here at the Sports Nationals. We'll be back with more. In the first round of Pro Comp Eliminator, the Golden Gator, driven by Chase Knight and owned by Al Leitert, went out of competition. Earlier, Steve was with the team as they were presented the Fram Best Engineered Car Award.
Dave, for a change, as our Fram Corporation judges strolled through the pits looking for Best Engineered Car, they didn't have to seek out the subtleties. It was plenty obvious right on top of the engine. 3 superchargers on the Golden Gator from Fort Lauderdale. Here's driver Chase Knight to explain it.
Steve, we use the conventional supercharger to get the car moving. Once the clutch is out, there's a load on the motor, the turbochargers take over and carry it on down the track.
How much money and time's gone into this project?
Steve, there's 6 years in it right now, and money, you could say $70,000 if you wanted.
And it runs well, qualified in the top half of the field. Back to you, Dave, and more Sports Nationals competition.
Thank you, Steve. And a tough break for Chase Knight and Al Leitert and the Golden Gator. Going into the wall in the first round caused some damage to the car. It's not total. It will be back running stronger than ever. Right now, we're ready for the semifinals of competition and modified eliminator. In comp, we find the dragster of Bobby Cross against the altered car of Joe Williamson, while John Lingenfelter and his dragster goes against the econo-altered of Dennis Ferrara. In modified eliminator, because of the 48-car field, the semifinal round calls for a bye run. That lucky guy is Pete Smith. The 2 cars racing each other, Dan Cook against Cotton Perry. And here is the Chevy Camaro of Dan Cook. Cook from Chester, West Virginia, making as far as he ever has in NHRA championship competition. But he's got a tough one here. The hottest thing going in modified eliminator is Cotton Perry. He won the Cajun Nationals title and has moved into the Grace Cup points lead. Perry gets 4/10 of a second head start. The handicap starting system used in modified eliminator. And Perry not to be headed 10.86 seconds at 120 miles an hour. Moves into the finals as he defeats Dan Cook.
At 127.
Here in slow motion, you see he had the lead in the middle of the course, never relinquishing it from the time he left the starting line. Pete Smith out of Houston, Texas will be his competitor. He gets the bye run. Again, 48 cars started eliminations in both modified and superstock. Because of that, there is a single run in the semifinal round. Pete Smith against Cotton Perry in the final.
Coming up in just a few moments. 58 miles an hour. Now Smith will face off with either
Semi-final round in competition eliminator, the dragster of Bobby Cross, the altered Ford Roadster of Joe Williamson. Joe's car uses the 6-cylinder engine, while Bobby Cross, behind him sits the small block Chevrolet V8. Cross with 0.15 of a second head start. Williamson, one of the strongest racers in competition eliminator. Cross with a head start has a bit of a lead, a couple of 100 feet off the line. And he comes from behind at the finish to take the win, 8.76 seconds. His speed, 152 miles an hour. Here in slow motion, you see his head start, 0.15 of a second. It's about a car length, just a few hundred feet off the starting line. Then the Roadster of Joe Williamson makes its move in the middle of the course. But at the finish line, it's Bobby Cross by about a half a car length. John Lingenfelter at the wheel of the dragster. Wallace, the remaining 2 cars, the winner, going into the finals to face Bobby Cross. Here's the world champion, Dennis Ferrara. Another altered versus dragster matchup. 1.35 seconds head start will be going to Dennis Ferrara. It's a long time to sit there and wait and watch your competition. Ferrara with a big lead. But the hard-charging dragster of Lingenfelder more than makes it up at the finish line. Lingenfelder 8.10 seconds at 166 miles an hour. Let's go to Steve Evans with modified finalist Pete Smith from Houston, Texas.
Well, you've got a chance here to get to one of the baddest guys in the country right now. What do you think? How's it going to go?
I feel good about it.
Have any strategy at all?
Just outrun him.
Do you even worry about the car on the other line? Do you just try to drive against the tree and the clock?
That's all. Just driver, you know, I don't worry about him at all. Just let him go.
Okay, well, best of luck to you against Cotton Perry, who's been ruling the roost. Pete Smith, Houston, Texas.
4 cars remain in the Pro Comp semifinals. 2 funny cars. That's Jerry Gwynn against Ken Veeney, while 2 dragsters also remain. Kenny Cook against Bill Wallace. The funny car of Baby Huey. That's Jerry Gwynn in the far lane. In the near lane is Ken Veeney. Veeney has a brand new Dodge Challenger, debuted at this event. We're back into Pro Comp where it's 1 amber light, then green. Heads up racing to the finish line. Jerry Gwynn losing traction momentarily, and that was enough to put him out of the race. Ken Veeney, a fine 6.78 seconds, 207-mile-an-hour run to put him into the final. Bill Wallace, the dragster, powered by the heavy engine. He's against Kenny Cook. Cook's car using the small block Chevrolet. Both are supercharged, both running on alcohol. The difference here, the extra weight demanded because of the heavy engine for Bill Wallace. Kenny Cook has lower lap time of racing today, and Bill Wallace knew it. He gambled on the tree, and a red light for Wallace. Kenny Cook, 6.79 seconds, 196-mile-an-hour run. Cook just 100th of a second slower than Ken Veeney. In slow motion, you can see Bill Wallace move just a hair before Kenny Cook, and that was enough to get him the red light. It'll be Cook against Veeney. Here's Steve.
Dave, we're taking a moment here to relax with Ken Veeney just prior to the final in Pro Comp. I don't know how we can relax in all this heat, but we're doing our best. Ken, you come in here with a brand new car. You built the body yourself, I understand, the chassis yourself, a motor full of borrowed parts, and here you are.
Got lucky.
I don't think so.
I've raced before. I had a good I had a pretty good idea how I wanted to do it again, and had a good idea where to start. You know, because I had done them before.
You said you just simply couldn't afford to buy the components, so you had to build them.
Well, right. I mean, I didn't have the money to go racing again, and I really like to race, and I like to race funny cars, and the dragster is a little easier to run. It's easier to race against a dragster, but the dragster, the funny car being more popular, you can match race it and make a little money with it that way, too.
Well, you've got them shaking their heads again. Ken Veeney going into the final.
Thank you.
Back at the Sports Nationals in Bowling Green, Kentucky, I'm Dave McClellan. In the staging lane, some frantic work going on right now as we're ready for the finals. Here's Steve Evans.
Dave, we're going to try to talk to John Lingenfelder, one of our competition eliminator finalists. What are you doing here?
Trying to change jets, lean out the carburetor. Our competition's about a tenth faster than we are, and we're trying to make a change to catch up.
That was just a question I was going to ask you. Last year you ran a body car. Do you like the dragster better?
I'd rather be in a body car, but we got to get kids go faster before we quit.
Have you won the Sports Nationals before?
No.
You have a lot of other titles under your belt?
Couple.
Just a couple. John Lingenfelder, good luck.
Thank you.
The final in modified Eliminator. In the near lane is the Corvette from Houston, Texas, driven by Pete Smith. This is the second final round appearance by Smith. He was runner-up at the 76 Gator Nationals. Alongside of him, Cotton Perry. Perry getting a tenth of a second head start. A lot of concentration on Perry's face as he watches intently the Christmas tree and leaves right on time. Side by side, they battle their way down the quarter mile. Second event in a row, Cotton Perry wins modified Eliminator, extending maintaining his lead in the Grace Cup points chase.
25 miles.
Cotton Perry, by a half a car length, wins the race over Pete Smith. Once again, let's go to Steve Evans.
Mr. Cotton Perry, Georgia's finest cookie salesman. How many major events is that now this year?
3. Been very lucky, very fortunate. World's greatest crew.
Well, nobody else calls it luck. You were really too excited to even talk before the final round.
I was very uptight. This guy was as fast as I was. My car had been responding real well all day. I was really more uptight right here, more pressure than the Cajuns, you know, with 2 cars in the finals. Well, I don't know why, you know, the further you go, once you get on top, you got nowhere else to go. And, you know, and there's more pressure there.
Congratulations again. You're just a super driver.
Appreciate it.
Cotton Perry, Sports Nationals champion.
The final of the Sports Nationals in competition eliminator. This is the last of our handicap racing. In the far lane is Bobby Cross, driving the C-Class Econo Dragster. In the near lane, John Lingenfelter in the B-Class Econo Dragster. 75 hundredths of a second, 3/4 of a second head start going to Bobby Cross. 32-year-old John Lingenfelter, already with 5 wins to his credit, does not do it here as Bobby Cross takes his first ever national win. 8.80 seconds. His speed 152 miles an hour. In slow motion, we see Lingenfelter's final charge, trying to catch Bobby Cross, but he misses by just a couple of feet. An excited crew for Cross as the finals of competition eliminator are now over. There is one final remaining at the Sports Nationals, and that in Pro Comp. The funny car of Ken Veeney against the dragster of Kenny Cook. And what a story behind this. Ken Veeney, many-time national champion, built himself a new car. He brought it to this, the Sports Nationals, debuted it here in national event competition, and is in the finals with the funny car. Kenny Cook in the small block Chevrolet red lights away his chance, and it is Ken Veeney the winner. Kenny Cook got to the finish line first, but he left the starting line first. In slow motion, you see him leave just a hair ahead of Ken Veeney. The foul start giving the win automatically to Veeney. And what a Cinderella story there is. Ken Veeney from Wadsworth, Ohio, started his racing in a funny car. He's back again. Once again, Steve Evans.
Well, homemade car, borrowed parts and all. Ken Veeney, as he crawls out from under the body he built, wins the Sports Nationals. You didn't know you won, did you?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't know I won. I just seen him out there, and I had no idea I won. But I'm sure happy. This isn't the way I like to win, but I accept. I've never won the Sports Nationals, and I'm sure glad I did.
How many national titles now?
Including the Cajuns, it'd be 9.
Well, your wife, who loves to celebrate so much in the starting line, she was very despondent. She didn't see the red light, I don't think.
I don't know. I can't believe it. I mean, I couldn't even believe it.
Well, believe it. Congratulations. Ken Veeney, our Pro Cup champ for 78 here at Bowling Green.
The racing's over here at the Sports Nationals, but NHRA's technical department says there may be a bigger story yet. We'll be back with that in just a moment.
At Fram, we've...
Bowling Green, Kentucky, this is a rerun of the final round of competition eliminator. It is Bobby Cross in the far lane against John Lingenfelter in the near lane. The race was run, and Bobby Cross was the apparent winner. We'll watch here as he gets the head start. Both are Econo dragsters. One is a C category car for Bobby Cross, the other a B for John Lingenfelter. There you see Cross crossing the finish line first. But in a post-race teardown and certification by NHRA's technical department, it was discovered that some improper cylinder head modifications had been made. Bobby Cross was disqualified. John Lingenfelter, the winner of competition eliminator at the Sports Nationals. We've had a great time here at Beach Bend Park and the Sports Nationals. 3 days of the greatest sportsman racing you'll ever see in a fun-filled locale like Beach Bend Park. For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClellan saying so long from Bowling Green. NHRA Sports Nationals has been brought to you by Kodak, whose color burst instant cameras give you bright, brilliant, bursting color by Kodak. Presented by Fram, makers of oil, air, and fuel filters, windshield wipers, and Autolite spark plug and tune-up kits. Promotional consideration received and a fee paid by Whammo. It's a whole new ball game. Trackball by Whammo. The executive producer of Diamond P Sports, Harvey Pallett. Our producer-director, John V. Mullen.
Van Cleef stars and Death Rides a Horse. Then it's Randolph Scott and Comanche Station. Tonight's double feature on the Channel 7 Saturday Night Movies starting at 11:30.
Coverage of the 4th Annual NHRA Sports Nationals has been a Diamond P Sports presentation.